Alright, now we're going to be adding the submit part of the form. And the way you do that is you input tag type equals submit, and the value, which is basically just the name that people are going to see on the button. And we can make it submit. You can make it into anything. It could be enter, it could be I don't know any other way to say it, but I'll say submit. And then the class is the CSS design of it, and we'll make it, this is Bootstrap, btn primary. End it. Put save, and now it should show up. There. I guess I took the place of the number input. Let's replace that. Put type equals number. Nah, there's no value here. Oh my god, it's no. Or foot break, make some spacing. And now let's check it out. Alright, there. I want some more spacing, so I'm gonna add another break. Okay, there. That's what we want. Now if we click submit, it doesn't take us anywhere. Even if we put stuff in, or if we put how much money we're gonna add in and we click submit, nothing gets inputted, it just disappears. And why is that? It's because we gotta tell the form where to send information. And if you look at the form tag, nowhere inside of it do we detail where it should send information to. So that's what we gotta do. So the way you do that is form action equals this is telling it sent, this is action is its way of telling what address to send information to. It's kind of like the URL. So action slash we can call it save, I don't know, what's a good name? Save name cache. So that's the name of the action that we're going to create in the controller. And the method is going to be a post. Yeah, so this is just like, if you can imagine, this is like we're detailing a URL. We're telling the form to send a request to the slash save name cache action or URL as a post request. And now the reason why it's a post and not a get request is because we're requesting the server not to just show content, but we're giving it our own info and we're asking it to save it. Like our name, we're giving it our name, and we're giving it the amount of money that we're gonna play with. And so the server is gonna see it's a post request, and it's gonna do the action that's a post request or post action, and save it in the however it's saving its data. So now if we save this file and we go back, reload, and if we input stuff, and if we click submit, we should get an error. There, it takes us to an error. But we know that what we did so far is correct. So by clicking submit, it requested the route post slash save name cache, and But the problem is that no route matches the address that we requested. That's because we haven't made it. And if you look down here, it tells us all the addresses that we currently have. And the only one that we have right now is the root path, which takes us to the start page that we were just on. So let's go to routes and let's write out the address. So post request to start, save name and cache. And then this let's add the slash there. This should take us to the controller BlackJacks, remember plural, pound symbol, and then the name of the action, and we'll call it the same thing as the URL, which is save name cache. Save it, and if we come back here, reload page, we submit something, submit it. Now the error is that it's telling us the action save name cache cannot be found within the BlackJack's controller, and that's telling us that there is no method. So it found the URL, it found the address, and it went to the BlackJack's controller and looked for the save name cache, which if you look in, there is no action. So that's the error. It tells us there is no action, so let's create that. Define save name cache. And let me go back to the explain why we have to use a form. The reason why we have to use a form to send this information is because you can't just do this through the search bar of your browser, because everything that you search in your search bar has to be a GET request. So if we searched in the same URL, which was whatever localhost, and then slash save cache, in, it tells us no route matches save cache in, even though we have this URL. The reason why is because this is a post request, and over here we sent a GET request. Anything that you send in the browser is going to be a GET request, and so that's why you got to use a form. But that's not the only reason you got to use a form. There's a good amount of other reasons, security and privacy and probably a lot of other stuff, but you don't need to know that. So now we come here and in this action we got to do stuff. This is a post request. It's not just a GET request where we're just showing content. We have to save the player's name and the amount of cache he has into our web server somehow. So how are we going to do that? And first of all, where do we even get the information of the cache and name? How do we get that information? So I'll show you that by typing in binding.pry, and this is a tool you can use on Rails. It's so that you can see what's going on in your program at that exact spot. How do you say this? So when we run all these actions from the starting page of writing our name, how much money you would like to cash in, and you submit it, it's gonna go, the route now, it goes here and it finds the controller, then it's gonna go in the controller and it's gonna run this action, but then it's gonna read binding.pry and it's gonna stop right there, and we're gonna be able to look at that place where it stopped and see all the conditions, all the variable values at that certain spot, and that makes it a lot easier for developers to find the errors and to see what's going on at that exact spot. So that's what we're gonna do. The way you binding.pry is a gem, so if you type it and you try to use it, it's not gonna work. And so in order to use it, you need to go to your gem file and you want to add the gem bind or pry. So I don't have internet right now, so I can't search it up on Google. So I'm just gonna go to my other project and copy the gem. So this is the gem pry. Actually, I didn't even need to do that. I could have just typed it. And we're gonna come here and paste it in development. Gem pry, and then save the document. The reason why we put it under this over here, group development, comma test do, is that this means that these gems will only be used while we're in development mode or test mode, which is it's when you're developing the app and you're not actually running the website for other people to use. It's not in production mode. The mode that it's like this prototyping. This is the prototyping when you're actually executing and having your website online for other people to use. None of these gems get installed or used by your app because they're for developing purposes. So that's why we group them in over here. So to get the gem installed, we got to go into the command prompt and Control C to exit out of our server running, and bundle install. And one thing you got to make sure you do is that if you want your your website that's running on the server to be updated with the gem you just installed, you gotta exit out of the server and rerun it. Like, you know, the command rails s. So if it was running right now and I installed another gem and I didn't restart the server, then the server would keep running as if it didn't have the gem. So if you're like on an error and it's not working, you don't know why, and it's because of that gem, it's because you didn't restart your server. So you gotta always make sure to central out of it and then install it and then restart it. So it's installed, so I restart it, and now it's up, and the pry gem should work now. So here it is, binding.pry. This is the command for it to stop, and now we're gonna test it out. So we input our stuff, Austin 2000, and we're gonna submit. What is the error? Invalid authenticity token. Alright, I think I know the error. It has something to do with this. Let me look at my previous project. Verification controller. Check for forgery. I copy and paste this code, delete whatever you had before, and just have protect from forgery, and then skip before filter, and then save. That's how you get past that error. I don't really know why that error happens, but if you search Google, that's the other people that have had this problem, that's how they fixed it. So just gonna go with that. And now if we go back, we submit again. Now it's working. Even though it's not loading the next page, that's exactly what we wanted it. We wanted the program or the computer to stop, freeze in its place as soon as it runs this code binding.pry. And so now we can check out that area by going on terminal where the server is running, and it stops at that exact same place. Define save name cache, and which is the same method as right over here. And it stopped right there. So now we can see the conditions of what's going on there. And so what do we want to see in this method? We want to see the information that got sent in by the form that was submitted from the start HTML over here. This is the form, we submitted information. We want to see that information. So how do we see that information? We can only see it through the params, and that's something new. Params is it's the variable that captures all the information sent from somebody's computer to our website. So in this case, I was the user who was on the website and I submitted information to a specific address. That information got stored into something called a param, which is like, just think of it as a variable, and that variable got sent to my server. So if I type in param's variable, it'll show me all the information that got sent. So there, that's it. And you should be familiar with the hash if you've gone through Ruby tutorials. So the hash is saying there's a controller variable for BlackJacks, which is basically just saying that a form got sent to this controller for BlackJacks. And action save name. Alright, so this is not what we were looking for. I was hoping to see two variables over here, input type string and input type number. I wanted to see in the terminal the values Austin and 2000, which was the amount of cash I had, but it's not showing up there. I think I know why. If we come back over here, it's because our input doesn't have a name, so we got to give it a name, which is like, think about like the variable name. When you create a variable, you have to have a variable name, whether it's like x equals 2, x is the variable name, so we got to have something like that over here. So name equals player name, player. And then same for the cache. So name equals cache. And when you use binding.pry, since the computer is frozen at that state, we got to exit out of it in order to get the program running again. So the way you exit out is you just type exit and enter. And there, it exits out. It's no longer frozen. If we come back, you don't even know that yet. Let's just go back. Reload. Austin. And now if we inspect it, the input now has the name player, input name player, type string, form, save, okay, yeah. $2,000, submit, and again you see over here the it's not loading. It's because it's frozen with binding.pry. Let's come back here. So now if we type in params, we should get our results. There we go, params. It tells us that our visitor of our website sent in Austin as his name and $2,000. So how do we extract that information? It's a params. The variable params is a hash. This is a hash. So if you know how to work a hash, you should know how to extract the information. Params. And then the variable name for Austin is player. So if you do that, there, bam, it extracts Austin. Because as you can see, player is a variable name that's storing the string value Austin, and cache is the variable name storing the value 2000. So if you want to extract 2000, you just type in params 2000. No, not 2000. I mean params cache. There. Now if we typed in params 2000, we wouldn't get anything. 2000. See, error. So that's what we want. Come here, type those params player and params cache. We'll exit out now. Exit. But so we've now solved the fact of getting the information. Now how do we store that into our website? We could not could, but one thought would be set it to a variable. So we could call it player name. Player name equals params player, and we could do cash equals params cash. So this is basically saying player name equals Austin, cash equals 2000. But if you know about what scope is, which you should know if you took previous required tutorials in order to take this course, you should know that a scope would only allow these variables to exist as long as the computer is in this method. So as soon as the computer finishes this method, those variables disappear, which we don't want. We want that information to persist and stay in memory for our website throughout the entire game. Because otherwise, if it wasn't persisting, then we'd have to input the amount of cache we have on every single web page that we go to, which would be really annoying, and the game wouldn't work because then you could just easily cheat and just type in the amount of money you don't have. So the way we save that into our website through memory is, one way is you could use the database, which permanently stores information in the website forever until you delete it. But that is not needed for this because we don't need to permanently store this information. This game will take like a minute to play, so we just need a temporary memory for it, which can be as long as like 2 days, a day, or a week. But it's not permanent, and it differs from storing memory in the database in the fact that the database, you have total access to the information, whereas if you use this thing called a session, then that information is stored in the browser of whoever your visitor, wherever your visitor is. So say I have some guy in California on a computer who searches my website, and he goes to this URL, and it saves the URL, or this action saves the memory of the name he input, which let's just say is Bob. It saves Bob into a session, and what that really is doing is it's saving that name into a memory slot that his computer's browser, like say it's Google Chrome, they have like a small pouch of memory, and it's storing that variable Bob, player name Bob, into his browser, not in our database. So it's storing something on his computer, and we through our website we can save it on his computer and then access it so that it persists. But there's reasons why that's not the same as storing on your own database. So that's why there's two different functions for if you want to save something on a session or if you want to save something on a database. And also right now we're not at the level of using the database, so we're going with the session. So how do you save stuff in the session? How do you save stuff in the person's browser? And just to kind of give you a visualization of what a session is, if you click inspect, you can actually find where the sessions are stored. So network, where is it? Resources. Yeah, look. So this is where the browser stores its a little slot of memory. So if you visit like YouTube, your browser is gonna save stuff like what videos you most recently watched. It's gonna save it in its little memory and somehow do some cool features using that. And so that's what kind of sessions and cookies are. It's like the browser's short-term memory for storing stuff from websites. So as you can see over here, except there's nothing there because we haven't stored anything. But this is where the browser's memory slot is, and that's what we're using. just to save in this information. And that's the strategy for like logging on to a website. How does the server know you're logged in? The way it does that is by it saves the state of your login in a session on your browser, and then when you log out, you're deleting that session. So that's how that works. Coming back to here, so to save it in the user's browser, we type in session, and then now inside the brackets, we're going to type in the variable name of that specific session. So in this case, it's going to be player name, and we're going to set it to params player. And then the second one is going to be sessions cache equals params cache. No, that's not what I meant to do. Cache. So now we're going to get rid of that, and now we have this. So let's put binding.pry just to check it out, and let's run it. So submit. Let's go into here, and let's search session player name, and let's see what it gives us there. So clearly it's stored params player, and now it's going to be saved onto our browser for a pretty long time, and using that we can have some way to store or have memory for this game. And same thing if we type in cache, session cache, there. Exit. And now if we go inspect and we check out the browser's sessions, we'll actually find that session. So local storage, host, there. Oh, okay, that's weird. I'm not seeing it. Maybe the reason why we're not seeing it is because of the error page. But the fact is, Austin is saved into our browser, and so is $2,000. So those variables are saved. And now the error that we're facing right here is telling us template is missing. That means that Rails went through this action, and then the way Rails works is that it goes through an action, and after it finishes the action, it goes to the views, and it looks for if you remember, this is the views, it goes into the BlackJack's folder, and it looks for a specific HTML file that is called save name cache, the same name as the method, but we don't have one. It's not there. And that's why we got the error that says template is missing. But for this, if you remember, this is a post action. This is a post URL, and for post actions, you're supposed to go by the convention and only do or saving in stuff or doing stuff in the controller. You're not actually returning any content to the person's browser for them to see. That's meant for GET requests. So we're not gonna create a HTML file for this action. We're not planning on showing them anything for this action. All we wanted to do for the save name cache action was literally save the player's name and save the cache. We're not actually trying to show them anything, because it's a post request. You're supposed to keep it defined. GET requests are for showing content. Post requests are for saving stuff and stuff like that. So you're supposed to keep those two jobs separate. So then how do we move on past this error? To say we don't want it to show a HTML page, we just redirect. Redirect is literally what the name is. We're redirecting the the program to go to some other action or some other URL of our website. So it goes through these, goes to the save name cache, does this, saves params cache into the session, and then it's gonna read redirect to, which is a specific command, and we're gonna name out a specific URL. So we could do something like if we said slash, which is the home page, which is the same thing as root path. Root path is this path. That's the root path. And you're probably wondering why is the word path added onto there? That's just the format of Rails. Is you got this part which is kind of recognizable, root, and then whatever the bottom slash is, and then you add path. And if you think about it, path kind of makes sense, because if you think about like a trail has many paths. So you're saying this route is the path. This is the path to the root route. So that's what it is, root path. And if you want to see all the different routes you got, you can just type in rake routes. No, wrong command. Rake routes, and it'll tell you. And so we got the root route, which is get slash, and then we got the save name cache. And if you want to see what would be the name if I were to use the this type of format with the path in the last part of it, which is that's kind of like the syntax of Rails. That's what you should be doing most of the time. You shouldn't be actually using the real URL. Then you look here and everything under this subcategory of prefix or the column of prefix, you look down and you find whatever name is here, and if you append path to the very end of it, that's the URL, or that's the path URL name for what it is. So over here, root, you just got to type in root and then add path to the end, and that'll redirect us to the root. So if we reload this, and I took out binding.pry, so it's not going to freeze anymore. So submit, and there, see, it reloaded us to the root path, except we can't even tell because we started on the root path. So let's not do that. Let's redirect it to the next page, and the next page is going to be the save, is where we're going to ask them, how much do you want to bet? How much money do you want to bet for this specific round? And thinking about that, that's going to be something that they see on the browser. So that's going to be a GET request because we're showing them content. We're not actually doing anything on the server part. So let's create that route. Get slash bet, call it bet. And that'll be to an action in the BlackJack's controller under the route bet. It's not. Save that, and let's go to here, and now let's change the route it redirects to. And if we type in rake routes now, we should see the new route, and it's under. Let's check the prefix bet. So if we type in bet and then add a path, Rails will know which path to go. It'll find the bet URL through this bet path, and it'll redirect it to it. Which means we gotta create the action define bet path. And if we go here now and we type in Austin and we type in 500 and then we click submit, it redirects us to, oh, what's going on here? Cannot redirect to nil. Why is that no? I don't know why it's doing that. Redirect to bet path. Cannot redirect to nil. BlackJack save name cache. It's weird. Why is it doing that? Redirect to bet path. It's not nil. See, this is where we use binding.pry. It's where it's useful. So if we go back, we run it, and then submit, and it's gonna freeze at that spot where we wrote binding.pry. And I want to see what happens if I write bet path, because our error was telling us, no, that's not the right error, but the error was telling us that bet path returns nil, which I don't know why it does, and I guess it does, it returns. But if we write root path, it returns that URL, which is right. And if we return, do save name cache path, it returns the right URL. So why is it not returning the right URL for our thing, for bet? Let me check this again. Bet path. Why is that? Jeez. Let's try restarting the server. Fails S. Let me check out the routes again. Break routes. So it's the same thing. I don't understand why. Bet path. Application controller. Jump files. Alright, we can try this. Let's just type in the actual URL, which is bet. And now we'll rerun it. Just type in some random stuff here. Submit. Action. Okay, so that worked. Action. Bet. Oh, that's why. So I wrote the action name as bet path, but it should just be bet. Save. Now over here it's saying that it couldn't find the bet path. So I guess this did work, even though bet path did not work, and I'm guessing bet path did not work because our action is called bet path, but the format of Rails requires that the action has to be called bet, and if there is no action that matches the form bet path with the name bet, then it automatically sets this to nil. So now that we did that, this should work. We go back, and then let's submit. Alright, so that works. Now we got an error, but the error was that we didn't have a template. And we just got to add a template in our BlackJack's views. And that'll be for next lesson. So that's the end of lesson 3 of BlackJack.